Welcome to the Autism in Black podcast, where we focus on all things autism and the Black parent experience. Our goal is to always educate, support, and empower parents to advocate for not only their children, but themselves. Hello, and welcome to the Autism in Black podcast. I'm Maria Davis-Pierre, a licensed mental health counselor in the state of Florida and America's #1 autism advocate for Black parents. I am the founder and CEO of Autism in Black, Inc., where we aim to include the excluded. Today, we have BreAnn Robinson, who is the expert behind the vision. She is the owner of Auesome Achievers, LLC. BreAnn sees big potential in every moment and cares deeply about each client and family she has had the opportunity to work with. Her unique skill set enables her to deliver the best services to her clients. Her leadership reflects the vision, value, and success of her company. Not only does she service special needs children and their families, but she also educates, empowers, and enlightens all families on how to navigate the school system and understand financial literacy. Advocating and educating is BreAnn's passion. With her sensitive approach tailored to the needs of the family, she strives to bring core values of advocating, educating, and coaching into others' daily life. I'm really excited to have BreAnn on the show today to talk about homeschooling so we all can understand homeschooling and what that is like for our children who have IEPs and what that means. Today's episode is sponsored by the Autism in Black virtual conference. For more information, go to www.autisminblack.org/conference. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Autism in Black podcast. I'm very excited about today's guest. She is someone who I know advocates hard in the community, and I know she just actually started her own homeschool academy. So I'm so excited to have BreAnn here today. Hi, BreAnn, how are you doing?
Hello, I'm well, thank you.
Glad to have you. So I've already read your bio, but can you tell us more about yourself, about your sons, anything that you're wanting to share with the listeners?
Yes, so I am indeed a special needs mom. I'm also a special needs sibling. And like you said, I have a homeschool academy. Co op is basically what I refer to it as, but I'm a person of many, many hats. I hold a variety of different certifications, but I take most pride in being a master IEP coach. So I really work and do a lot of advocating in the special needs community because it's really dear to my heart. I've been advocating since I was 16 years old, but I've even been working with special needs, I would say students, because I was only 9 at the time, since I was 9 years old. So I'm really versed in the field and in the community. And so starting this homeschool co-op has really been a joy. So that's just a little about me.
And for you, with your sons, did you always homeschool them? And if not, what led you to the decision to take them out of school and homeschool them?
Well, I'll say this right here. I have been formally like involving my children like in the learning process since, they were in my womb. So I'll say I'm always homeschooling because I
Hmm.
firmly believe that parents in the family are the child's first set of teachers. And so when my children were growing up, they attended first like an in-home daycare facility, really loved it. It was great. Then they went to formal daycare, they did public schools, they did charter schools. But one of my concerns before I started homeschooling was the sports. My children are like highly, highly involved in sports. And so living in the state of Georgia, they don't have the Tim Tebow law like Florida does, where if your child is homeschooled, they can still participate in public school sports. Well, that's not here in Georgia. And I currently, advocate for those bills that's in the House and in the Senate. But when COVID happened, it created a loophole. In 2019, I really discovered AAU and how to start that organization for the sake of my sons, because one, he's autistic and everybody don't know how to work with autistic kids. So I was like, okay, I need to be able to do this for my son so he can play sports as well. And then I just started learning more and more. Like I said, COVID happened, which created another loophole of, well, you could do this virtual learning. In my district specifically, they got bought into a certain program that allowed me to become a learning coach and be able to make things adaptable, and my kids can still participate in school sports. So that's pretty much how I got into really starting this homeschool academy.
Wow, that is amazing. And I know that you do a lot of lobbying work and you're well versed. So finding that loophole and lobbying for those bills to advocate for your child to have access to sports while in homeschool, that's amazing, because you're right. We here in Florida do have that law, and it was something that I've always known about and was like, okay, well, they'll at least have that for socialization and being able to participate. But I didn't know it was just a Florida thing. I thought it was, for other states as well. So that's very interesting.
Yep.
And then I know for a lot of parents, they're not sure of the process of starting homeschool and taking your child out of public schooling and then starting them in homeschooling, and is there paperwork and how does that all go? So can you tell for starting homeschool?
Yes, so it does start with, let's say, for instance, your child is currently in public school. You have to do two things simultaneously. You have to withdraw them and file for intent to homeschool. Here in the state of Georgia, the file for intent is electronically. It's literally, you say, yep, I'm going to homeschool. We have a 180-day calendar. And in the state of Georgia, if your child was in public school for 90 days, then the other 90 days, you can use that time they were in public school as part of your 180 days. And you sign your name, yep, click, click, boom, it's submitted. You formally withdraw your child from the public school system. And that's the legal part of homeschooling, right? But honestly, to start off your own homeschool, it's really just connecting with other parents who desire homeschooling for their child as well. Understanding like your state homeschool law. So doing that research and like what the law says, assessing your child's learning style, their preference, assessing your own teaching style, methods, your approach to education, then picking a curriculum. And what I like to do is pick a curriculum that complements my child's learning style and my teaching style. And then decide where you want to homeschool at. Do you want to homeschool in your home? Do you want to do it at the public library? Do you want to get a building? And then develop a schedule. So it's not hard, but it takes a lot of work to make sure you just have all of your ducks in a row, knowing what curriculum you want to use, understanding like, okay, well, my child really learned this way. There's so much out there. When you start beginning your research, people are going to say, do this. People are going to say, well, you should align your homeschool curriculum to the Common Core standard. Everybody says so many things, but I firmly believe in get to know your child. And if you're going to make it a homeschool academy, get to know the children that you are thinking about bringing into your co-op. So get to learn those parents. Understand those parents when they tell you, well, my child, he has ADHD, so he might stand up, but he's focused, he can do his work. Are you the type of person who want to work with children who needs to stand up and learn that way? So sometimes it's like, well, I'm gonna just homeschool my own kids. But for me, it turned in, no, I want to homeschool other kids who have special needs, because some parents are already overwhelmed, right? Yes. And so they are at the point where I don't feel that I am equipped to do it. for, certain amount of times. But in the state of Georgia, it's 4 hours. 4 hours is what is required in making sure you're doing those core subjects. That's it. You don't have to sit for the 6 to 8 hours that typical public kids do. You can stretch it out. You can start as early as you want. You can start as late as you want. You can do it a combination between doing stuff on the computer or doing pencil paper. Here in the state of Georgia, you have to do testing like every 3 years. You don't have to submit it to the state, but you have to keep it for record retention. Because when it comes to your child reach that age of trying to get driver's license, right? You have to show certain type of documentation. Taking attendance, so coming up with a system of how you're going to take attendance. You're not turning in to anyone here in the state of Georgia, but you have to maintain it. So it's not hard. It's a challenge, is what I like to call it. It's a challenge, but it can be done. And always, get support. When you decide to make this decision, have someone who's supporting you and you're able to talk to. And the go-to for me is going to Georgia's Department of Education website. So, in Florida, that will be Florida's Department of Education website. Going there, they have so much information that is free to you. And you're able to get that. And then they have people you can contact to say, hey, I have a question. They're obligated to help you. That's what a lot of families don't know.
You have said a mouthful and you have my brain working right now. So I got some questions. What curriculum do you use? And I know that you have 2 sons and then you also homeschool other children. Are you using more than one curriculum for all the individuals there, or do you stick with one?
I'm going to tell you this. I don't use like one set curriculum, like Time from Learning. I don't just use Time from Learning or Abeka. I take things from all of them and basically make my own from using things like, okay, well, I know this worked really well with this child. All right. And I know this, and I formulate it. So for me, like, I firmly feel like every child should have some type of individual learning plan, whether they have a special needs or they're typical, right? So with my kiddos that I have, I'm now up to 7. They each have their own individualized plan, right? So literally every child learns differently, right? So I have one kiddo really learns great through music. So a lot of the lessons and things that he learns is through music, but it's incorporated so the other kids can learn as well, because I believe in just utilizing, all 6 senses: smell, sight, touch, hear, sensation of self-motion, like being able to do that. And then you start to see like, okay, well, this child really learns great this way, but you know what? I see, Johnny over here is getting it too this way. So it doesn't even hurt the other kids. But I know for this particular kids, the learning needs to be this way. I have other kids who are very, very visual. So there's a lot of visual aids going on. So that's incorporated into the entire curriculum. So everybody's needs are being met when we're in that whole group learning.
Wow. And then I know you mentioned a couple times it being a co-op homeschool environment. Can you explain what that is? Because I know for me, I have no clue what that is.
With the co-op, like I said, is the parents are very involved. So we each take up different parts of what's going on in the academy. And so I am the overall educator. And I say educator, not teacher, because I don't have a teaching degree. Okay, I am an educator. I know how to educate. And so I do the bulk of that. I'm the one who's working, with the Georgia Department of Education when it comes to the kids who actually have the IEPs and of that nature. And then I have one parent who goes and does the grocery shopping, because my co-op, the kids get fed. All right. You don't have to worry about, what my child bringing lunch. No. We're not doing that. Okay. That's why it's a co-op, because we're very family oriented, cater to whatever the dietary needs are. We do that. So I have a parent, like I said, that takes care of getting the food. I have a parent who cooks the food, who helps build the field trips, who helps write, okay, well, this is what we're going to do for physical education. So every parent has something that they do, but it's not based off of me delegating, you do this. It's based off their strength. Mm-hmm. Tell me what you are able to do according to your schedule, according to what strength that you're really great at, and boom. And that's how we work. And that's how it has been working since March. And I have seen great success with the families and the kids. So that's pretty much how my co-op works. Everybody's co-op works a little differently, but that's basically the gist of it. Parents, everybody's really involved. All the parents are involved in it.
I love that collaborative effort. You really got me wanting to move to Georgia so I can join in as well. And I'm telling y'all, I have seen what these kids are eating in there, and and every time I'm like, oh, that looks really good. Like they're eating good.
Yes.
So I know you said you've seen the success. So what are some of the benefits you have seen since homeschooling?
Wow, I'm gonna tell you, it has been amazing. The first thing is, I'm able to modify the curriculum so they have a better understanding of the information. They're able to retain it better. I'm in full control of their schedule. Therefore, we always start our day off with the strongest academic to motivate them, to provide them with excitement, and to encourage them to move on to, the different academics that they perceive to be challenging. So what I've noticed in the state of Georgia, across all 159 counties, is that everyone starts off doing English language arts. And we know from statistic records that reading is a big struggle for a lot of people. And if we're starting school at 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, you want a child to read, they're barely woke. Because by the time you get out of school, you do your extracurricular activities, you try to engage with your family. By the time most kids, even at the age of 5, because parents are putting kids in sports early, they're not getting to bed till 9 to 10. And we know the recommendation for kids that young, they need about, 10 to 12 hours of sleep up until they're about 13 years old. So kids are not getting the proper amount of sleep. You want them to read, and for most of them, that's their struggle. And they're falling behind. They're a year or two behind. And then for some, it is an issue going on with reading, some type of disability. But for others, it's just, I'm not woke enough. I'm not focused enough. I'm not ready to do this right now. And so with me being able to have that flexibility to say, you know what, I see you over here, Kim, you are good. You can start reading at, 8 o'clock when we start. But you know what, Jay, we're not going to start reading at 8. We're going to do math because you ace math, because I want him to be motivated and encouraged. And then I'm saying, what do you want to do next according to your schedule? I want to do reading now because he's excited, like, oh my gosh, I got an A. I'm ready to work. I'm focused. I'm energized. I'm ready to get to this challenge. And then you start seeing the success of the reading comprehension improving and things of that nature. So that has been a real benefit for me, being able to provide breaks for my kids who have special needs when they are overstimulated or when they're distracted. And then lastly, being able to have more engaging learning activities throughout the day. So we do Jeopardy, we do trivia, we do scavenger hunts, we do karaoke, we do any and everything that's in that multimodal learning. We do it all because, like I keep saying, every child, no matter if they're special needs or not, learn differently. And so we just cannot be sitting at a desk looking at a computer screen, or sitting at a desk giving out worksheets, or me standing up there sitting at a desk and I'm whomping all day. They're not going to learn. They're not going to retain the information. Every generation continues to change. And so we have to change with the generation. We have to meet them where they at. And we say, oh, we're meeting your kid where they at, but are you truly meeting the child where the child is at? Are you even listening to the child when the child is telling you, I'm struggling? Half of the time we are not. Oh, you can get it. you know you got it. No, the child just told you, I don't get it. So you need to change your approach and see what's worked best for that child.
Wow. Great points. And I like the focusing on strengths, especially when it comes to our students who do receive SPED services and who have disabilities. So often the focus is on deficits rather than the strengths. And that is something that just really gets to me, because I'm like, if we focus on the strengths and use those strengths to help the areas that are not quite there, then that helps the child to be able to then advocate for themselves and know how to rely on strengths to help out with those other areas. So those are great points. So I know I was talking with you before we started the recording about when COVID hit and starting crisis schooling. That kind of made me like, okay, homeschool may not be for me. Because girlfriend was stressed, and I was like, this is not what I thought it was going to be. But then people explained to me that there is a difference between crisis schooling and homeschooling, and that even though I'm at home doing the schooling, I'm still so bound to what my district is doing. So there's such a difference. But what other myths or misconceptions about homeschool are there that you would like to talk about so people understand, that they're myths and misconceptions?
Oh, wow. I would say there's a good bit of them, but one of the ones that get me is that, the child would not be challenged academically because the parents aren't qualified teachers. That gets me the most because, like I said in the beginning, parents and family are the child's first teacher. So when my child goes to kindergarten, you're like, oh my God, he already knows his ABCs, his 1, 2, 3, his colors, how to spell his name. Oh my God, I think he's gifted. I was the teacher. But now you tell me, oh, the child is not going to be challenged academically because I'm not qualified. What? So that's the first misconception there. Another one, the child won't retain the information or be prepared for college. So that gets me too. And then to me, like the biggest myth that I found is the socialization. Like they won't know how to interact socially with same age peers. That to me is not the truth at all. With my homeschool co-op, we go out and we meet up with other homeschool co-ops and the kids play. We still find ways to do field trips so we could be socially appropriate. I'm a sports coach, so we do sports. And in my homeschool co-op, there are other kids here. And even if I didn't have that, I have 2 kids, so they have each other. I'm one of 12 children, so it's a lot of nieces and nephews. So they would be socially, appropriate. But for those families who might have, the one child or, with COVID going on, kind of scared to get out, you have to get beyond creative with the social, being able to do Zoom, get their friends on the Zoom. I know they're not physically there, but you're still going to get that social interaction when they're all on the Zoom. You can do Jeopardy on Zoom. You can go to Cartoon Network and they can share their screen and take turns playing the games that they like together, watching their favorite shows. So that is the big myth. My children have had no deficit in their social life. I think it's grew, honestly, because I'm like, gee whiz, where these friends come from? I'm like, you haven't been to a school building, but I'm able to, like I said, they're still able to engage in their sports. And it's like they haven't missed a beat at all. So it's all about parents. What initiative are you willing to take to ensure that your child is getting that social interaction? Because you're the adult in the situation.
That's a good point. And the myth about parents not having the background to teach, that one, I didn't even think about that, but that is such a great point. And I know here in Florida, a lot of our teachers who are teaching our children do not have actual degrees that are education related. There are teachers who are teaching Sped classes, special education classes, and they don't have a degree in special education, because here in Florida, if you have a certain degree, you could take the the test and be in the schools teaching, So like me, I have no experience with teaching anybody's kids but my own. And I could take the test and be a SPED teacher. That is such a great point about the qualifications, because if that's the issue, then there's people who are working in our schools now, then we should say, oh, you shouldn't be here then, if it's going by those kind of qualifications. That's a great point to bring up.
Yep.
And now I know we want to get to the juicy part of it, because I know my parents are listening. They're like, well, what about my kids' IEP? And, they're getting services, and we've worked really hard on our IEP and the services that they get. So I want to ask you, how do you ensure that the school district provides SPED services to your homeschool student? Because I didn't even know that they had to do that.
You know what? This is a big one right here. This is a big one. So I have a son who has an IEP, and I have two students that have an IEP. And so what many families don't know, maybe there's some that do know, that when you homeschool your child, the state is required by the federal law to conduct child find. So I'm going to go with all right, I'm homeschooling, child never been in public school. So I'm going to go with that example first. You said, you know what? I'm not going to put my child in a public school. I want my child to be homeschooled. Well, you see that your child, got some learning issues. You like, okay, something's going on here. I don't know what to do. I think I want to get them evaluated. A lot of time families go spend thousands of dollars. Guess what? Your child's homeschooled. You sent the stuff to the state. They know your child homeschooled. Guess what? They have to conduct child find. What that looks like is you write a letter, say, you know what? I've been homeschooling my child for 2 years. I see that he's struggling here, here, and here. Here's my data that I took. I want him to get formally evaluated. They have to do that. And then you go through the whole process of the formal evaluations. You do an IEP eligibility meeting. They make a determination. Let's go with the easy way. They say, you know what? Yes, your child qualified for services, right? But the parent said, you know what? I'm going to deny the services with the public school system. I don't want that. Here's where the families mess up. They don't know to say, you know what? I want a consultation with someone from the state, like the special ed coordinator, and I want to see about getting an equitable service plan. So what that looks like is they are required to provide that consultation. And when they do that, they're going to determine, even though it was already determined in an IEP meeting, they're going to just make sure, so it's kind of like the follow-up, that your child qualifies for the equitable services, right? So everything is a consultation. So boom, you approve. What that looks like is, depending on the services that your child would have qualified for in the IEP. So say, for instance, your child qualified for the related service of speech, PT, and OT. So, and they determined at the consultation that, yep, you can get these equitable services. That's going to look like creating a plan. So the parents and the person from the state and your local district LEA is going to create this service plan. And then you're going to talk about, well, how's the child going to receive the services? Typically, you're going to agree to a place to meet. And those services are going to look like 30 to 45 minute session. It could be once a week, twice a week, 5 times, whatever you guys decide on, or whatever your district has set up, because every district is different. And then it's the parent's responsibility to get the child to the place. Now, that person who's providing those related services, they have to be certified and qualified. All right. On top of that, some districts also have a trainer set in place. And so they provide trainings to parents, help them be more involved and engaged in the learning. You say, you know what, my son is just not getting this reading. I do this, I read to him, I give him this type of accommodation. They're going to provide you with some training, say, you know what, you told me everything you've done, but you haven't tried this. So let's see if I give you the right training tools and resources, and then let's go back again. So those are those consultative services that homeschool kids can get. Now, what I do want families to be mindful of, because a lot of families, they'll join a homeschool organization, right?
Mm-hmm.
So with the federal law, it says that IDEA states that an elementary or secondary school is defined as a nonprofit, institutional day, or residential, including public charter school. So in the section, you can look that up in IDEA because I want you to look for yourself, is section 300.13 and section 300.36. So you can look that up. And it tells you that it has to be nonprofit. So if you join a homeschool organization that is for profit, you are going to forfeit your child's equitable service plan. You're not going to be able to receive those consultations. So you want to be very careful of joining organization. You want to make sure you do your research that it is nonprofit. And you can find a lot of this information from your Department of Education, your state site. And so that's pretty much, how the district provides it. So it takes the parent knowing that I can ask for this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, hey, my child was in public school and he had an IEP, but now I am homeschooling. Mom is homeschooling him. He's not in a public homeschool thing. Like here in Georgia, we have like Georgia Cyber Academy. My child is not in that. He's homeschooled by me, mom. They have to provide still those services. They got to set up the consultation. If he qualifies, boom, they have to put something in place.
You just really have schooled me today because I'm listening, I'm taking notes. I'm like, this is some good information. So if the child was in the public school setting and has an IEP, how do they go about getting the equitable service plan? Do they go to the IEP meeting and then deny the service and ask for it?
So basically, if the child, when you withdraw and file for intent to homeschool here in the state of Georgia, and it is probably like this in all the other states, it actually asks on the form, is your child special needs and have an IEP?
Oh.
So they should, once you click that and submit that, they should contact you. But I don't believe in anybody contacting me about something that my child need and I know they need. I am going to contact you. So I say send an email, paper trail, everything. Send an email to the point of contact, which is typically your state special education director or coordinator, whatever they call it in your state. Contact that person via email and let them know, put a copy of the IEP on there and let them know you want to have a consultation to determine if your child is going to receive equitable services.
Wow. Thank you for this information, because that is you dropped some gems. Okay.
You're welcome. And this is even for, I know we're talking about homeschool, but this is even for private school. So if your child attends a private school and it's nonprofit private school, they are entitled to equitable services. That means if that private school accepts the child IEP, somebody from the state level or from your district have to do a consultation with you and the person from the private school and create this equitable service plan. It is required. It is required. And I know there's a lot of private schools that are not doing this. They're taking, whatever scholarship money. I know in Florida, it's the McKay. I know here in Georgia, it's the Georgia Special Needs Scholarship, SB10. And they're not doing these service plans. They're not, they're just getting the funds. And then, and I know this because I have a client's private school and they're just like, I'm like, y'all didn't do no. And there's certain things, a lot of stuff that goes into it. This is a whole podcast by itself, whole episode, just talking about equitable service plan, because a lot has changed. There's some updates to the law recently that has changed. There was some issues here in Georgia when all of COVID happened. It's a lot. It's a lot. And parents need to really start going through the IEP, learning different sections of the IEP, understanding what services their child is getting, why the child is getting the service, understand like, okay, you can't change anything in the IEP without us having a meeting. I have to be informed. I tell parents all the time, when they say, oh, we could just amend this over the phone, don't do it.
Don't do it.
See it. No, have a meeting. I don't care if we in there 7 minutes. That's fine. That is perfectly fine. You need to see, you need to get a copy And I
Mm-hmm.
tell parents, I'm not telling you this just to be telling you this. I went through this and come to find out they amended other things that we didn't agree on.
Yep.
So
Yep.
always go to a meeting.
And
Always, always, always.
will take stuff out and not even tell you that is illegal.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
Cannot.
So yes.
But it happens because when you're undereducated in an area, people take advantage of that.
They do. And the school relies on parents to not have a lot of this knowledge. And they take advantage of that. And that's the truth of it, especially for our Black community. It happens.
Especially.
It happens. And we're definitely going to have you back for a part 2 to talk about this equitable service plan, because, I need all the deets on that. So when it comes to graduation and diploma, then how does that work when your child is being homeschooled?
So you are everything. You're the principal, you're the educator, everything. You do your own graduation. Like I said, when it's time to get certain things like licensing things, there's certain paperwork that your Georgia Department of Education, like here in Georgia, or your Department of Education, Florida, wherever you at, have on there for you to fill out, show the proof that, the child grades and everything. But it wouldn't be like a high school diploma from a public school or a diploma from a private school. It will literally be what you've created to say, hey, my child was homeschool child. Now, when it comes to college might want to see certain type of things, but that varies from college to college. You might have to take what they call like an entry exam, or some colleges might even request that, hey, can you go take the GED test? Like they want you to take some type of test that aligns to their standards before you can enter. So it really just varies. But you have your own graduation ceremony. You can get those created, have a whole seal and everything. So it just really depends on what you're trying to do. I got a cousin who actually, they were homeschooled from the time they was 3 all the way up until 11th grade, because their mom wanted them. She didn't want to go through all the mess of that. And so she put them in school 11th grade, and they graduated and got a high school diploma.
And for all of you listening, you can get cap and gowns off Amazon, because I had to get them for my twins. When COVID hit, they didn't get to have their preschool graduation. So we did one at home for them, and I ordered those cap and gowns right from Amazon.
Same here. I did a whole graduation for my son was graduating 5th grade. I had one graduating like 8th grade, 2 graduated kindergarten. And so we did a whole graduation. You're right, Amazon, and have your own ceremony.
Yes. And can you talk about some of the other resources that are out there for parents who are homeschooling?
Yes, so there's a lot. There's different homeschool associations. One of the big one is HSLDA. That's a really big one. A lot of resources they have. You can join their organization and become a member. And then there's like other resources you can get from there. Some of the resources that I use is like Boom Learning. Teachers Pay Teachers is really good. I love Elephant Learning. That is dealing with math. Flash Learn is another math one. And these are computer programs. Epic Time for Learning is like a big homeschool one that is really neat. IXL, I really love IXL. A lot of schools actually use IXL. It is great. I love it. Duolingo. So if you're teaching, want to teach a foreign language in your homeschool, Duolingo is amazing. It's an app and you can use it online, and it breaks it down, and it's fun and interactive, and kids love it. There's also called Easy Peasy All-in-One Homeschool. That one is really, really cool and neat. Have a lot of information there. I like to use News ELA. And so it like takes news article and it really works on those literacy skills and comprehension skills. So that's great for like the English language art component that you're required to teach. Scholastic Learn at Home. So everyone knows about, the Scholastic Fair at least when I was in school. So now they have a at-home version, so the kids can get that same experience. If your kids are into coding or you're big on doing the STEM, code.org is really, really great. Love it. As young as preschool age, love it. 826 Digital is really great. Starfall is really awesome. And then, like I've said throughout this entire interview, your State Department of Education. That's your first, to me, is your first go-to, because some of these are free. Some of these require subscription. Some of these require membership. But first, go to your State Department of Education, because they're going to tell you what's required of you to do and provide you with some tools. Families need to really start utilizing that, as well as educators and teachers, because a lot of this stuff that I'm sharing and telling, it comes straight from there. And the issue is the state only recommends, educators and teachers go here for this training. They recommend everything and not require it. And when I'm put on the scene, they're looking at me and I'm like, it's you guys training. It's your training. It's your training that was recommended to you. So I'm not telling you something that you shouldn't already know. So, and that's what I want parents to do. Go get this information. It's there for free. It can be overwhelming, but it's there. And we have to start educating ourselves so we're not tricked or bamboozled into believing something else.
So important. So important. And you mentioned so many good apps, and we will definitely have them in the show notes. My kids love Starfall. We actually did have to get a home subscription to that, because they love it. And just for you to know, they are still doing the Scholastic Book Fair. And now, because of COVID, our school is doing the online one, because it's going on right now. And my kids have been circling the books that they want. So I have to go and purchase them so they can be delivered. But yeah, it's still going on.
That is awesome.
It is. So I know you wanted to touch on family engagement. Can you talk about the importance of family engagement?
It's so important. I used to call it parent involvement, right? But families are changing. Some children are not with their parents. They're with grandparents. They're with aunts, aunties. They're with uncles. It's been changed to be called family engagement. And what I've noticed, when the family is involved and engaged, the child has a better outcome overall, whether it's academics, sports, life, communication, socializing. They do and perform so much better. It takes the families being collaborative with the school and developing some type of partnership and getting the school, everyone in the school, so the teachers, the janitors, the principal, the cafeteria worker, to really understand your child. But it also takes the school doing their part to close that gap. And what I mean by that is, empowering parents with specific actionable things that they can do to support the child's achievement. So there are some parents, who are not educated, or who might have not graduated high school and went to college, or, had their children really, really young. So they're learning along with the child. And so giving them actionable things so they can know how to better support that child. But that it goes even further than that, ensuring that our people who sit on our board of education have provided proper training to the staff, the teachers, the administrators on the topic of family engagement. And again, these are trainings and resources you could find at your State Department of Education that talks about what districts and schools should be doing to promote family engagement, giving them ideas, providing resources. But then once the school get it, it takes them promoting it to the parents, not just putting it on the little bulletin board in the front office. Because my issue is, you send home everything else. Oh, we're raising money for this. Can you donate for that? Well, can you promote more family engagement outside of always donating and giving money to the school? How is that truly benefit my child as an individual? How is that helping me? thoroughly explain what PTO is, why we want you to come to these meetings, why we want you to be so involved. It needs more. I'm big, honestly, I am that person who said it should be required, but there's probably way more legality into that. If it's a requirement, what I've come to learn, when people are required to do something, they do it because they know there's going to be a penalty, right? We might not can make it required, but we have to do something to really get the parents engaged, because some people are just self-motivated. Like, I want my child to be better than I was. So they're doing, their hands is everywhere, all over. Like, you're going to know my face. Like, they know Miss Robinson. When I walk, hey, Miss Robinson, what you here for today? Nothing. I just come to see how y'all was doing. My kids are fine. That was me when my kids was in brick and mortar. I'm like, man, I just come to hang out with y'all for about 10 minutes. How you doing today? And, get involved, know what's going on, because what I've come to learn is like, wow, okay, this school right here is cycling through a lot of teachers, a lot of administrators. What is really going on? Right? Yeah. So then you start to see stuff. You're like, wait a minute. And then you start to see, okay, well, this teacher over here, like, I noticed she's not as given as much work as this teacher. And then you start, once you engage in building these relationships and partnerships, you start to learn, oh my gosh, this teacher's been sick. This is why you haven't had any work over here. But no one's, you don't know that until you start building and developing relationships and partnership. When you start sitting with the principal and just talking just about life and appealing to their emotions to get them to understand, when we're sitting in these IEP meetings, they're going to advocate for your side versus just sitting there going with what the school think is best. They're going to be able to empathize or sympathize with you. And I've learned that I was able to appeal to a principal to be like, oh, so you actually have a child, so you get it. So let me play on that. Let me pull that out of you so you can see me as parent to parent, not administrator to parent.
I love that. And for schools to even understand that parent involvement and family engagement look different for every parent. Yes. I truly believe that sometimes schools are so hyper-focused on the selling part and the PTO meetings that quite frankly can be at odd times that parents can't get to or don't have child care and things of that nature. So it's like you're pushing parents out. So understanding that family engagement looks different for everybody and providing many opportunities for families to get engaged on the level that they can. Yeah. So you make some great points there.
And I've seen some districts have, have been doing like, okay, well, if you can't make it here in person, let's do a Zoom. But you call me for everything else. Make that a phone call for some families too. And then, but also on the other end, it takes parents doing these surveys. So you have some districts who are putting in the work, and you have the families not doing their end, but want to complain. So I'm very transparent. Okay. You cannot be asking and petition and you finally get what you've been crying for and you don't hold up your end of the bargain. Because I see a lot of that. So when they're sitting and putting out these surveys, take the survey. It's 2 minutes. I firmly believe in it. If you could take the 2-minute quiz on Facebook, you can take this 2-minute survey, because the survey is all about how funds are getting allocated. It's how funds are getting allocated. And this might hurt somebody's feelings, whoever listening, but if the white communities are doing these surveys and us in the Black communities are not doing these surveys, who's getting the funding? That's how the funds are being allocated.
Yeah. And how decisions are being made that then are harmful to our Black children because it was decisions based on a white perspective.
Yep. And so and then when you get these surveys and you read, you're like, you know what? This don't work for my family. Now you need to go to a board meeting You need to bring that up. We have to start really being the voice. And that's all family engagement is, being the voice. Stand up, get involved, start engaging with everybody. Make them know who you are in a positive way. Okay. Don't go there hooping and hollering and carrying on, but know how to be assertive and get what you need for your child.
Love that. Thank you for that. So as we begin to wrap up, what's one tip or word of advice you would give parents listening, or to any of our listeners?
It will be stay involved and engage. Learn to be a better advocate for your child's learning style, even if they are not special needs. And one quote that I really, really love, and I stand firm on it, is tell me and I forget, teach me and I remember, involve me and I learn. And that's by Benjamin Franklin. And I believe in that. And I've come to really see my children in the homeschool co-op I have blossom because I'm involving them and I'm involving their parents. And parents are so excited to see their child achieve academic success when they thought they wouldn't.
Wow, thank you. Now, where can people go to get in touch with you? Because they probably going to be reaching out and be like, look, I need some consultation on how to get this homeschool co-op set up. So where can the listeners go to find you?
All right, so I am on Facebook at Auesome Achievers, and you spell that AUESOMEACHIEVERS. I am on Instagram at Auesome Achievers. You can visit my website at www.auesomeachievers.com. And you know what? You can just call my office number, 678-597-8792.
Thank you. And we will have that information in the show notes as well. I just want to thank you, BreAnn, for educating me because I have some new research that I'll be doing on homeschooling. And, it might be an option that's back on the table from us, after I finish, getting some therapy on this trauma that this whole crisis schooling. And I'm really not even kidding, guys. Like I have really had to see my therapist on that. So yes, so that it's definitely back on the table because you have really brought up some great points. So I'm definitely interested in homeschooling again. So thank you for dropping all these gems. We so appreciate that.
You're welcome.
And thank you all for listening to another episode of the Autism in Black podcast. And we will see you for the next episode. If you haven't done so, make sure to subscribe to our podcast so you can always be notified when a new episode drops. To get the resources shared on today's podcast and the show notes, make sure to go to autisminblack.org/podcast. And be sure to share your takeaways from the show on IG stories and Twitter using our official hashtag AIBpod so that we can find them and share them. And if you want to continue the conversation from today's episode, make sure to join our Autism in Black podcast Facebook community. And please make sure to answer the questions to gain entry. Thank you for listening and joining me this week. Have a good one.